Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob and today we are gonna be continuing the narration and character voice acting for the side story Zwillingstürme im Herbst. Alright, time for part 2 of this journey. Before we begin though, for anybody who is new to both the channel and bumps into it through this very episode and wants to hear this story from the very beginning, the playlist is linked in the description of the video. In the description of the video you can find it under the Leithanien branch. And I have also linked the entire playlist down in the pinned comment with all the timestamps, so you can find it very easily. So enjoy, and thank you very much. And also refer to part 1 for those of you who haven't seen part 1 for the entire roundup at the beginning with all these stories that are connected to this side story, because, oh boy, there's a lot of them. But yeah, also, guys, thank you very much as always for all the likes and the comments on the previous part, much appreciated, really help a lot. There is, as a little bonus here, there is a comment on the last part that made me laugh. It just made me laugh because it's so on point, but at the same time it's like, ugh, really? So first off, thank you Roxas Hunter, aka Clement, for that comment, which read, "Sweet, here's my favorite episode of Ebenholz Can't Catch a Break." I read that literally before I started recording the cutscenes for today, and I just had to laugh. I was like, yeah, that could very well be just the subtitle for Zwillingstürme. That could very well be the subtitle for Zwillingstürme, you know what? But yeah, poor Eben really cannot catch a break. But yeah, thank you for that comment, really, really on point. But yeah, anyway, we're gonna go with the recap of the previous part now. So for those of you who want to skip, as always, timestamps are provided down below in the comment sections. So just hit it and you will be at the beginning of today's part. But let's begin. On the previous part, we began our story the pretty much usual way as always with anything Arknights, and that is with the introduction of everybody who is gonna be present in this and their plot lines, at least the central characters. Beginning with Arturia, who is doing apparently a tour through Leithanien and just delivering her music and everybody is ecstatic about it. Followed by Viviana, who just returned a few short days ago into Leithanien apparently and was waiting to meet someone. That someone, or rather the first one who appeared, is a woman, a blind woman by the name of Cora, who also appeared to have been working for her father, Vanna, the Kurfürst of Sturmland, aka Viviana's home territory, essentially, and her home spire. But she also receives the news that her father has been assassinated. As we see when we flash over to the spire of her father's, the investigation is full underway with one of the Gesetzeswächter there pretty much investigating and already pursuing one of the culprits behind it. But in the meantime, Viviana and Cora, as they are acquainting themselves, and learn very quickly that they are being watched and they are being immediately attacked by a group of casters. As the two of them fend them off, Viviana learns also that she is being summoned to the Zwillingstürme by the Empresses, the Twin Empresses themselves, to become one of the Empress's voices. We switch then over to Federico, aka Executor, who is also just arrived in Leithanien, and he is obviously there to hunt down Arturia and arrest her. In the meantime, we also see that Ebenholz made it into Leithanien, who got back there on his own agenda, and he's trying to sneak back into a town, but as he doesn't have his papers anymore, is being a bit of in a pickle, but Beagler wrangles him out with a copy of his passport and gets him into the city. They do go their separate ways, though, soon after, as Ebenholz has his own agenda. We then later see the meeting between one of the Twin Empresses, the white one by the name of Ewige Gnade, as she meets with Cora and Viviana. However, the acquainting between the three of them is being short as they get interrupted by the appearance of the Gesetzeswächter, who is conducting the investigation into the murder of Kurfürst Werner. Viviana obviously overhears what is happening, as she quickly deduces if she wanted to be excused or could have excused herself out of this conversation. She can't anymore, as she overhears stuff. She accepts the position as the voice and begins the investigation on her own to figure out what the remnants of the Witch King are pretty much doing, as it concerns her as well, considering that her father was killed by them. We then proceed to meet a new character by the name of Loris Borden, the captain of the gendarmerie in the city, as he also meets with Viviana at the museum, where a famous painter is displaying a new work of her art, which she hasn't done and displayed anything in the 23 years that the Witch King has died. But this painting is definitely turning heads, considering the title of the painting is The Death of the Witch King. But before anything can happen and the public can see the painting, the artist of it, a woman by the name of Seemann, dies literally in front of the painting as she dies from exhaustion. Once Viviana and Loris arrive at the museum where the art is being displayed, Loris gets called away as he hears some gunshots in the distance and goes to see what is happening together with his gendarmerie. And they do spot, or rather the gendarmerie spotted a suspicious individual who was trying to get into the museum itself, and that individual was obviously Executor, because he was trying to get there to get to Arturia. Because as we see, Viviana, who approaches the painting in question, also spots in front of the painting Arturia, who is observing the work of art. However, everybody goes their separate ways after that, mostly. However, later, Loris, in his office, runs into Executor himself, and it becomes clear that Executor has for a while been in contact with Loris, or rather was trying to get in contact with him, as he wrote him over 20 letters in total, but apparently Loris hasn't read most of them, and pretty much all of the letters were about Arturia and the and him asking Loris to work together with the gendarmerie to arrest this fugitive of Laterano. But considering that Executor is currently being investigated in as well, considering he tried to break into a museum and do stuff on his own, he has no real authority right, obviously, in Leithanien. Loris goes on a little jaunt through the city with him together, mostly to keep an eye on him. As they go through the city, eventually they will be stopped by some rain, where after they will take some shelter, and after they deal with some hooligans, if you want to call them that. But in the meantime, in a local park, Eben meets a young man with whom, or he appears as a young man. We're gonna learn a bit more about him today, but the two of them exchange some pleasantries and get stopped by suddenly noticing, or rather already noticing for a while, that Eben is being shadowed by a young man with a big sword wrapped in cloth. The man obviously is Lessing, and he is there to technically pick Ebenholz up. But Ebenholz runs away, or rather offers resistance up, and gets pursued down into these sewers below the streets. Meanwhile, Executor and Loris are pretty much nearby, and they notice the commotion that is happening, the art's discharges in the distance, and Executor pretty much breaks off of Loris, as he also noticed some cello music in the local park. As he heads there, he does not find Arturia, of course, there, who already disappeared from that spot, but he meets a young young Vulpo boy, and the two of them seem to exchange information about Arturia and proceed to go their own way, as Executor immediately realizes that he was there. He was essentially distracted by that cello, because Arturia's goal was not Federico, or anybody else in the park, but Loris himself. As we see Loris then hear the music of Arturia's cello and her arts, he immediately flashes back through his mind about his decisions and that he wanted to be a hero and stuff like that, and his old flame for heroism gets pretty much flared up very quickly. As we then see him rush into the, before even the rest of the gendarmerie arrive, rush into the sewer system to help out Ebenholz, who is being pressured by quite a lot of remnants of the Witch King. He does help Ebenholz out and manages to stall the remnants, but as Ebenholz gets away and gets taken by someone else, Loris unfortunately dies in that whole incident. Executor and the young Vulpo boy, however, arrive as well in the sewer some moments later, and they find the remains of Loris. And just to note, Loris did not die in the most normal way, outside of dying from the wounds he received. He also got pretty much turned into a spire of sorts, into a human spire, or a human fused into a spire, which was apparently a method of displaying killed traitors back when the Witch King was around. After that horrific scene and trying to get Loris out of the spire, the two of them get surrounded by gendarmerie, who perceive Executor as the main culprit here, but thanks to the young Vulpo boy, they manage to escape. Oh, and the young Vulpo boy's name, by the way, is Micha or Michael, to be exact. But the two of them get away. Later we see also an interesting meeting happening between Grimmacht, the other empress, with an interesting individual, and then we jump to our final scene, which was Ebenholz waking up in an unknown place together with Lessing, and whatever is gonna happen next, we'll see. I guess we'll see today. And that's pretty much part 1, where we left off. So let's head into part 2. And part 2 today will be covering these stories for stage number 3 and number 4 only. Yep, that's the length of the episode, and that's only 2 stages. There is a lot, and this is obviously, as we've already known, a pretty big story. So anyway, let us begin officially on stage number 3. Titled Etude. Encounter. The most famous black key etude. However, performing it is extremely difficult, the melody often seeming like it's tripping over itself. And just like in the previous episode, we're gonna be smacking the two cutscenes together into one single long cutscene, and then I'm gonna do the introductions for the new enemies that appear here. So, let's begin. The sound I heard when I was passed out. It was you sharpening your sword. It got some dirt on it on the way back. It better be sharp enough. My neck is sturdier than you might think. That's not for you to decide. Huh. Are we on top of a spire? I'm not going to let you jump off if that's what you mean. As I said, there are no second chances. It almost sounds like you want me to live. It doesn't matter what I want. It's my responsibility. You also have own responsibilities, don't you? You return to Leithanien. Don't run away again like a child. Perhaps your employer forgot to mention this, but Graf Urtica is dead. But the Urtica Grafschaft still exists. You're still the last of House Urtica. But I never wanted... Running away doesn't make problems disappear. No one can choose their birth. In that sense, we're all the same. Is that what you tell yourself to justify serving an executioner for that evil old fart that you had no choice but to become his follower? 9. It's how I remind myself what it took to gain the freedom I have now. What? Using the name Urtica, the one you call an evil old fart, changed my family's destiny. Everything I do today, I do to protect the hard-earned freedom of myself and many like me. You're thanking the Witch King? I'm just stating a fact. A fact, huh? What about the fact that he spilled so much blood? What about the fact that his remnants have claimed so many innocent victims? Did you think you could ignore all the pain he inflicted on others just because of some convenient fact? The Witch King is dead. Let the historians, politicians, and everyone else with too much time on their hands judge his deeds. I am a warrior. My only concern is the battle in front of me and the battle to come. If he truly left anything behind, then whether his legacy is good or bad isn't up to him anymore. It's up to those who make use of it. As his heir, that's how you should be thinking. Don't you dare look at me like that. Your wounds are going to open up. I don't need sympathy from a remnant of the Witch King. Graf. Not another word! Ebenholz. Which of us do you really think isn't brave enough to face the facts of the Witch King? That'll do, Lessing. Welcome back. Are the arts ready? Arts? Hopefully what's in your head will come in useful, Lamb of Urtica. Now, let me see it. The melody is surprisingly intact, considering Leithanians know nothing of souls. Sometimes I wonder if these people meticulously recorded even what Herkomshorn mumbled in his sleep. I must miss those metaphors of his when he used to curse out his tutor. You knew the old fart? Who are you? An old fart? Is that how you talk about the elders of your own family? I thought you Leithanians were all about etiquette and manners. Well, that's the one thing you have in common with him, I suppose. I have nothing in common with him. Stop screaming. Are you a 3-month-old baby? Crying any louder won't make anyone listen. Why don't you do something useful with your mouth? I could teach you some vocal arts that can be cast with your tongue alone. I'm not taking lessons from a minion of the Witch King. A ball of arts? Was that what hit you the last time, Lessing? I was careless. How many times do I have to tell you? You need to do more than swing your sword around. Train your arts perception. I hope you never tell anyone I raised you, you stupid sheep. I never have. As for you, I suppose it's noteworthy that you can manage that without an arts unit. But your manipulation of energy couldn't be more clumsy. Are you trying to blow yourself up? Who taught you to use your legions like that? The imbeciles and aspires? It's all the Witch Kings. Fools! They learn from Herkomshorn's madness, but without a sliver of his skill. That's better, my little lamp. It's best that you stay put for everyone's safety. Check the defensive enchantments, Lessing. Professor Hoffman is on his way. You should wait until he arrives. We need to get this over with quickly before we draw the attention of the Empress's voice and the Gesetzeswächter. Fine. Gerhard won't be of much help, but it's not the worst thing for him to learn a lesson or two. The Genesis Horn. How long has it been? Karl Schmidt Street.
That place again? It's just an old street where a bunch of failed artists make their homes. I've already investigated it more than a few times.
Lawrence Borden received a phone call before his death. It was from an old baron by the name of Lucas, who lives on Karl Schmidt Street. Apparently, he's called for the gendarmerie many times because of noise in the streets.
The old nobles are all like that, are reacting to the smallest things. They think they can order the people down here around like servants, even though they've been kicked out of their spires. What I mean is, I wouldn't take it too seriously.
Lawrence Borden's actions indicate the likelihood of a plausible lead there.
Were you even listening? Just because he went there doesn't mean he thought it was worth investigating. He may have been the commander of the gendarmerie, but he was just a Vizegraf, and a houseless outsider at that. 20-year-old honor made him little more than a glorified servant for the great nobles of a place like Zwillingstürme. He answered to the Baron's call, not because it was useful lead, but because he had to.
This information has little relevance to the objective.
Hey, don't just go! At least wait up! That shop.
Frau Schulze's fine hats. I don't usually wear hats because of my halo.
Just go in. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, meine Dame. Oh, by your appearance, I take it you're a local? You could say that. Do you know how I could get to Karl Schmidt Street? I'm sorry, I'm new around here. I don't suppose young nobles like yourself leave the spires very often. I'll ask someone else. No need. Just follow the street until the fourth statue, then make a left. You'll see it in the distance. See what in the distance? You didn't know? Karl Schmidt Street is also known as Marigold Alley. Marigold. It's where the great composer Carl Schmidt once lived. He wrote some famous pieces about marigolds under the sun, making the alley a kind of holy ground for art lovers. Interesting. I've never read about that. A little anecdote, the kind you hear all over Zwillingstürme. Hardly even a story. Well, danke for the directions and the story. Incidentally, you're not old enough to be buying a graduation cap, are you? Oh, I'm waiting for someone. Oh? If we happen to be heading to the same place, would you like to come with me? Thank you for the offer, but the music of the Kaiserinnen will guide me. Very well. May the melody of Zwillingstürme be ever long and binding, like the rivers and the clouds. You can come out now.
Explain your actions.
That was an Empress's voice who just passed by. She seemed decent enough, but unfortunately we're not walking the same path. You're a little later than we agreed on, Viviana. I met a remarkable young man on the streets. Now I'm sure we're not the only ones looking into this case. You sound a little sad about that. Yeah, the spy was practically a child. And... You stopped. What's the matter? I'm listening. The music of the Kaiserinnen is still playing. Zwillingstürme still bathes in their wonderful melody. But can a melody played by divergent wills remain in harmony forever?
You fear the Empress's voice. Is your employer an enemy of the Empress's?
Are you out of your mind? Don't ask that question out on the street.
We'll be entering the alley soon. I will ask then.
Fine. You want to know if I'm in league with the people who killed Lawrence Borden? Absolutely not. I'm a Lupo, which I would hope is obvious. I was born near Siracusa. In the early years of the Witch King's reign, not long after Syracusa broke away from Leithanien, how do you think he and his followers treated my people?
I was inquiring about you personally, not the history of your family.
Is there a difference?
I had assumed that you made your own choices of your own free will.
Free will? Not in my family. I was born to carry our destiny. Just like the lady who recently became an Empress's voice. She went from Leithanien to Casimir's, and from Casimir's back to Leithanien. Was any of that her own choice?
I'm inferring that it's complicated. This will make it difficult to discern friend from foe.
Huh. Why do you think they call Laterano paradise?
Stop.
What's the matter? Karlschmidt Street is just ahead. The Empress's voice went there. Maybe Borden really did find something.
The alley has changed from before. It is too quiet.
Are these pieces all by Frau Seemann? Ja, meine Dame. All drafts of the Tod des Hexenkönigs. I didn't dare touch them, nor did I understand them, so I left them where they were. What about anything else from the past few years? In the past few years, there is not much to show. She often said that her passion ended at autumn, 23 years ago. Would you like to peruse her earlier works? If you don't mind. Frau Seemann's early works are characterized by refined touches and bright, lively colors. Frida Seemann wanted to capture authentic emotions with her brush. She had an excellent memory and made good use of Originium arts to recreate snapshots in time. She was still young when I saw her in the Witch King's Spire for the first time. She had an almost Minoan liveliness to her, less of the stiffness of your average Leithanien noblewoman. Her easygoing nature attracted people from all walks of life. Frida's friends used to hold poetry gatherings here in this alley. Your parents were among them. My parents? They came here too? Did they never tell you? This is where they met. Your father wasn't a Kurfürst invading quite yet. He came from Sturmland to Einwald and often participated in gatherings of young people in Marigold Alley. One day, a young woman of common stock mustered the courage to read a little poem she wrote at Frau Seemann's poetry gathering. And that was my mother? She never told me any of this. Her brows always been furrowed, for as far back as I can remember. Lucinda Droste was a shy, gentle girl with soft, gleaming eyes. Gazing upon her was like sitting by the lakeside in summer, with a gentle breeze brushing by. Vanna fell in love at first sight, almost missing His Majesty's summons. If Brandt hadn't covered for him, he would have made part of a statue in front of the spire by the time House Hochberg's soldiers arrived at Anwald. This was still during the reign of the Witch King? Hard to believe, isn't it? But that era was resplendent in its own way, much like the painting before you. A resplendent marigold. This painting looks familiar. I think I've seen it before. But where?
Viviana. I'm sorry, but I need to take this painting away. Your mother is gone. I'll have someone clear out the room. I couldn't possibly leave you here with no one to take care of you. Someone will be here to take you away soon. Don't cry. You'll meet new friends out there. There will be people who love you, even without Mutiun Fati. You'll see the marigolds with your own eyes. See for me if they're blooming, like in the painting.
A flower chasing the sun. The clouds above Sturmland rarely clear up. It was cold and wet up in the spire. Father tried many things and hired many casters, but could never get them to survive in the flower pots. But here in this tiny Zwillingstürme alley, They're everywhere. It's warm. Where are you going, Viviana? An enemy? Viviana!
The music is faint, almost imperceptible. It seems distant, but also nearby. It transcends time, transcends memories, linking them in the same space.
You're going back.
Ernst's condition deteriorated rapidly. Even the best healers the twins could find couldn't save his life.
Which means you could be the new Kurfürst of Stormland.
When I first came here, I thought I was going to be a poet.
What about Lucinda?
I certainly hope she'll come with me, but I won't force her. She's talented. She could become a great painter under Frau Zeman's tutelage.
You love her, and she loves you.
Which is why I can't lie to her. I'm no longer the carefree youngest son of the Hochbacks. From this day forth, my life belongs to Stormland and to House Hochback, not to myself. The nobles will have a whole gaggle of young ladies line up, all vying to be my wife. I wouldn't be able to promise her anything, even if she were willing to come. If we lose the power struggle, she could end her days as a handmaiden in our spire.
His Majesty, the Witch King is dead. The spire that towered over Leithanien has fallen. Our days of being slaves to fate were expected to be left in the past.
At the very least, we now know that the name of our fate isn't the Witch King.
Just give it one last try, won't you? Either take her with you, or stay here for her. Just like the night when the Witch King fell, I pray that the kind and gentle will have their happy ending.
The music grows clearer. Unlike the performance of the statues, this music is alive. Like a kindly hand, it pulls her forward, down the stairs, away from the wind and rain. It is close, almost there, down the stairs, and the sunlight is waiting outside. The car is here. Lucinda is not here. I must find her. Everyone is waiting for you. The Witch King is dead. Your men must return to their lands, in accordance with our agreement with the twins. You must leave the city before noon. The armies of the other Kurfürsten are watching your every move. Stormland 9. The fate of Leithanien falls on your shoulders. When did you become such a stranger, Brandt? You always wear that helmet. I can't see your eyes. Sometimes I can't even tell if it's you speaking or another Gesetzeswächter. Because it makes no difference whether it's me or another Gesetzeswächter. Leithanien cannot afford another civil war. Sturmland needs a Kurfürst who the people will get behind. You're not here to protect me, are you? Just like you didn't protect Ernst or father that night. Do you remember, Vanna? When I was selected for Gesetzeswächter training, I came to you and Ernst and told you I wanted to stay. You grew up with us and swore fealty to House Hochback. You didn't want to go back on your vow. But you told me you're defending something far more important than any person's life, more important than House Hochback. I never forgot that, not even for a moment. Alright then. Is fate truly so impossible to resist, Brandt?
No, don't go. Don't give up hope. At least not so easily.
The young Kufus turns around and leaves, but Viviana does not want to follow. She tries her hardest to go back. A golden glow always fills the alley in autumn. Her mother must be somewhere in there, simply unable to make it in time. She runs, she searches. Marigolds bloom under the sun, just like the hopes her parents once had for her future. She wants to grab a hold of her mother, to grab a hold of her father's silhouette from the memory. As though she could change something if she did. Change the tragedy that was her father's life, and change her own. Year after year, the golden flowers take in the city's joy, anger, and sorrow, remaining as bright as ever in bloom. But some blooming hopes were left behind forever, 23 years ago.
Why couldn't I grab it? Is fate truly so impossible to resist? Viviana! Around you!
Viviana looks up in trance. The music stops. The melody seems to freeze in place, then becomes rushing energy. Like dark clouds, the arts tear the sunlight apart and rush toward her.
No need to fear, I'm here with you. A cello. Mental arts. The music is awakening our memories of Vanna. Mother, father. Over here, Viviana. I'll cover your ears with my hands. They're gone. I couldn't change anything. Don't listen to it. Whatever you're seeing in your imagination isn't happening in the present. The remnants of the Witch King are in this alley. They knew we were coming. There are too many of them. I can't deal with them all. We need to escape.
Another sound emerges. It is like a melody, but cannot be sung. It is like a bell, but continuous, without pausing. It is a declaration that rings in the chambers of the heart. Like the brightest setting sun, radiant purple arts shine through the clouds and fill the streets.
This melody, the Gesetzeswächter? Brand? Is that you?
Take Vanna's daughter inside. As for you, Embers of Evil, filthy drags picked from the trash heap, how dare you defile Zwillingstürme? Baron Peter Lucas turned 73 this year. He inherited his title from his uncle 3 years ago. 6 months later, he moved to Karl Schmidt Street due to the expenses of maintaining the Lucas family spire. He enjoys Karl Schmidt's music, but hates the street. He finds the sunlight, the flowers, the youth's graffiti, and the jazz music coming from the nearby bar unbearable. He orders his servant to close the curtains, turns on the gramophone, and the room is immediately filled with the sound of cello. The Sancta was a truly talented musician, he thinks. So talented, he could almost forgive her for being Lateran. He plays 11 instruments, 10 of which he learned during the reign of the Witch King. To send the best melodies into the Genesis Spire, talented young musicians were put into a room and made to compose day and night. He loved the violinist, her delicate fingers, and the beauty mark on the edge of her palm. Tears flowed down his face when he visited Victoria for the first time and heard music from his homeland on the stage of the Royal Theatre. He kissed her for the first time. That was his elegant, dignified Leithanien. He misses it. Trying to destroy houses and escape in the chaos? There is nowhere for you to hide before the golden melody. You're the last. Remove your mask and surrender to Leithanien, and you will be spared the pain of a burning soul.
This pain is insignificant. Have you ever heard the Witch King's Rise Orchestra play? The Black Forest of Einwald, the lakes and ports of Forsgard, the storms of Sturmland, anything you can imagine about Leithanien, you could feel in the melody. The Witch King did not interpret or conduct, he simply walked amongst them. As one of his musicians, you had to follow the guidance of his sightline and keep a tight pace with him. Fall out of line and you were ripped apart by the magnificent melody.
The Witch King's favorite punishment for those too weak to serve him.
But I kept up. I became a part of that transcendent melody. Since then, I could no longer tolerate playing for the mediocre.
What did you think you were? Interpreters of the great melody? Ideal-driven revolutionaries? 9. All I see are criminals hiding behind masks, killing the innocents of Leithanien and undermining her peace and order. Clowns burying their faces in the embers of the Witch King. Your life belongs to the golden melody now. But I suppose you were already dead from the moment you gave up your free will and became the Witch King's vassal.
What about you then? Aren't you wearing a mask yourself? The arts you use, the golden melody, the light of Leithanien passed down through generations of Gesetzeswächter, those who guard the Goldenes Gesetz. Are you not also a servant of a melody written by a greater will?
Even the greatest individual will is nothing before Leithanien herself.
Then, is it Leithanien's golden melody that pronounces my death sentence, or you yourself?
Is this your escape plan? Did you think the will of a Gesetzeswächter would waver before such clichés? Preposterous.
Why would I need an escape plan? I was chosen to find you. The concertmaster wants to know, when the events of 23 years ago echoed in your ears just now, did you see Ernst von Hochberg, from whom help would never arrive in time? Or his brother Werner, who died in sorrow as the Kurfürst he never wanted to be?
The Witch King cultist's body turns to dust under the power of dual originium arts. Only her last words remain with the ashes. Brandreina. You cannot avoid a choice forever.
On that day, 23 years ago, Father didn't wait for Mother. They missed each other. Lucinda went to the spice market before coming to the studio that morning. She wanted to try a different incense, see if it would lift her spirits. She did not know that she was already with child. Mother went to Sturmland in the end. She loved you, and she loved Vanna. She could not have raised you on her own if she'd stayed in Zwillingstürme. She knew that Vanna had already gotten married, but she had no other choice. Father had a choice. 10 minutes. If Vanna had waited another 10 minutes, he'd have met Lucinda and known that she was willing to face it all and fight by his side. He regretted those 10 minutes for the rest of his life. I know. He never told me, but I knew. A marigold and the moon. It was never meant to be. It was a dream that, upon waking, they knew to be beyond reach, words spoken only to comfort. Don't you blame your father? I can't. We're too alike. You told me that he aspired to be a poet, but he never once recited a poem in front of me. It was only after I returned to Leithanien that I realized, when someone no longer has the strength to face reality, the illusions that once brought hope now bring only pain. Viviana. You've been busy since your father's passing, shuttling from Stormland to Zwillingstürme. All I want to say is, it's alright to express your sorrow. I just want to rest for a while. Just for a little while.
Cora says no more. She closes the curtains before she leaves. The darkness wraps around Viviana like a familiar blanket. Cora knows her well, knows what brings her comfort. She gazes upon the paintings in the room, now covered in shadow, and the golden times depicted within gaze back at her.
Fortunately, the arts in that music didn't cause Viviana any real damage. But they brought back memories of Vanna, as they did for us, and it must be even more painful for her.
You're injured.
I am? Oh, this wasn't from the battle. I might have bumped myself when I went downstairs chasing after Viviana.
Why not try the therapeutic machine I brought back from Colombia?
I did not lose my eyesight yesterday, Brunt. I've managed on my own for the past 20-some years. You, though, something's off with your voice. Were these enemies that tough?
What an absurd notion.
That's more like you. I wish you'd take off your helmet and catch your breath once in a while, though. Even the finest instrument succumbs to wear and tear when used non-stop.
I don't deserve to rest. The gendarmerie is on their way. They'll take it from here. You should leave before they arrive.
Now? But we're so close to the truth.
Leithanien has not fallen so far as to need to entrust her future to a blind instrument tuner and a retired competition knight.
The cultists are looking for the Witch King's legacy. Frida and Loris were witnesses to that night. Vanna, House Hochbach, was part of the coup as well. If they're killing witnesses to complete some sort of ritual, they'll be looking for their next target.
Which is why you need to listen to me and stop your investigation.
What about you, Brunt? You were there on the day of the coup too.
I'm a guardian of Leithanien's will. A few Witch King worshippers won't get me. Besides, they laid an ambush for you here. You're the ones they're targeting.
But how did they know we were coming? Could Viviana really be right, and Frida's paintings hold an important clue? I believe so. Herr Rainer, please allow me to continue the investigation. I want to know what Frau Seemann left behind.
You're holding the draft to her final work.
Regret. The strongest emotion and desire that a painter had ever felt in her life. She spent her last days painting it over and over again. Through the strokes of her brush, she wanted to see the divine in her heart.
You're saying those haphazard strokes were intentional?
Yeah, it looks messy because she painted on the same sheet over and over again. The scene of the Witch King's death is still in the draft. Put the painting on the ground, Viviana. Okay. Brunt, try to play it.
Tell me when to stop.
It's vibrating like a musical instrument. Yeah. There are minute differences in each layer of paint. I can't see, but my arts allow me to hear the frequency of each layer. Almost there, just remove the layer of paint above and we'll find the very first version. Do you see it? It's blurry, but I can tell that it's the interior of a spire. It's imposing. The Witch King's spire. I imagine that even Frida could only paint a small part of it. Can you identify the figures in the painting? There is no Witch King. The throne is empty. The battle seems to be over. The painter herself, Frida Seemann, is behind the curtain. There is a Liberi soldier charging in from the hallway. Loris Borden? And, who is this Caprine holding an arts unit and cleaning up?
Gerhard Hoffmann, one of the most talented casters in all of Einwald, formerly in service of House Urtica. He became a teacher after the Witch King's death.
We were late. These lunatics don't care how many innocents they kill.
You're injured. I can treat your wounds.
Danke.
Where is Baron Lucas? Is he upstairs?
The Baron didn't make it. He'd been talking about moving for a while. We wouldn't have gotten caught up in all this if we hadn't put the plans on hold just because of that Sancta Chalice playing in the area.
What did their performance sound like?
Do you want to hear it? The Baron had me record it. I wonder if the gramophone's still alright. Huh, you actually found a clue.
Loris Borden found it.
Is it Arturia?
Yes. I may not be able to recognize a live performance or not, but I would never mistake her playing.
Aren't we in trouble then?
No need to fear. There are no arts in the recording, and she isn't nearby. Someone broadcasted her performance on this street a few minutes ago.
And her arts worked on over such a large area?
She must have accomplices. It would only be possible through a combination of Leithanien arts and her own.
You can tell all that just from listening to this?
This section here, it's not the sound of a cello, it's a pipe organ, and one of uncommon size.
A huge pipe organ.
It's an unusual instrument. Where might you find one in Zwillingstürme?
Ludwig's Universität.
A school?
Yeah, it used to be the spire of learning for House Urtica.
His head hurts. He has not felt such pain since he escaped Weisheim. When was the last time it hurt so much that he wanted to scream, to vomit, to cry? It was... He could remember. He just didn't want to. Say something. Gloat, why don't you? You're on the cusp of victory after I kept you trapped in my head for so long. When I die, I sure hope I get a proper death. Unlike you, who's been dead long enough to crumble to dust, only to be pieced back together and brought back to life.
What is he babbling about? You haven't started the ritual yet, have you? Not yet, Professor. He looks like he's in pain. Can he really take it? He's from Hakomson's bloodline. If he can't take even this much, then Viviana must have intentionally raised him to be useless. He suffered much for his age. If he's unable to bear it, interrupting the performance of the Voice of Mundane could cause the Genesis Horn to go out of control and affect all of Ludwig. I'm here. The spire will hold. But you swore an oath to Her Majesty that you would not reveal the true extent of your powers. She'd have to answer to the nobles if the students learned of your identity. Ludwig's Universität may be shut down, which would affect your relocation plans. And Ermi will give you an earful when she gets back to Leithanien. Giving this boy a laugh is harder than summoning the Genesis Horn. Where is Lessing? He's standing watch outside. He said he'll ensure that no one can enter before the ritual is complete. Nothing more than keeping his mind from being torn to pieces. Where is the device I made for those nutjobs in Bolivar? Are you alright? It's okay. They've left the room. We met not too long ago. Forest. Park. Yeah, I wanted to warn you, but Lessing was there. I couldn't take you away with him watching. Lessing. He's not evil by nature, but he can be stubborn. I used to be like him too, but all it takes to change is courage. Yeah. Can you move? Try to grab my hand.
What are you doing, Gerhard?
I'm sorry, Professor. I can't let you use Hakon's bloodline like this. He's a living, breathing soul, one with a bright future.
Spatial defense arts. I taught you those.
You also taught me that even the most powerful arts cannot erase regret. I've caused a lot of harm with the arts you taught me. But when I'm alone at night, I often ask myself, how many souls would have continued to shine brightly had I not done what I did? Would we be living in better times? Would the people around us have been better? Would we be better ourselves? That's why I gave up on being a spire caster and became a scholar.
What are you babbling about, Gerhard? You're making a big mistake. Step away from the boy.
A mistake? Nein, Professor. I'm saving his life. I'm not going to miss my chance this time. I'm fixing the biggest mistake that you and I, that we ever made.
So yeah, once again, like you said on the comment of the previous part, Clement, if you're listening to this, pretty much on point with that comment. Ebenholz can really not catch a break. That could literally be the second title for Zwillingstürme. But anyway, we have one new enemy here to add on stage number 3, which is the Remnant Orchestra Chorister. Chorister who wants to sing their king's praise. He tries to write his ode, but every word he pens is as malevolent as any curse. Good for him. So, let's proceed to stage number 4. Now, considering I'm gonna do the outro after number 4, let's do our enemy introduction here first, and then go into the episode, or rather the part. The new enemy here is Remnant Orchestra Drummer. Drummer who wants to set the beat for their king's music. Every beat he drums is filled with pain, for he punishes himself to achieve steady rhythm. What better way to do music than to self-flagellate, right? Anyway, stage number 4 is titled Rhapsody, Longing. A young man from Urtica climbed to the tallest spire of Ludwig's Universität, and when he looked down across the land, this was the resulting opus. Let's begin.
Sorry, Frau Diallo, I made another mistake. Why did you stop? I don't think I played the last bar on the last line very well. Your heart is in the right place. Don't let yourself be bound by the melody. Instead, guide it with your will. I can't help but think about what I did wrong, though. Then don't hold yourself back. Music is the voice of your heart. It's a language to express yourself with. If you let yourself be caught up in the grammar before learning how to speak, then language itself loses all meaning. Your embarrassment, your self-doubt, and your thirst for the future, they're all real, so let them live in the sound of your instrument. But that's not what my arts professor said. He said that Originium Arts is a rigorous field of study, that it's about uncovering the order within chaos, like putting together a mess of unrelated notes to form a beautiful chord. But I'm having too many distracting thoughts, and my sound is all over the place. That's why I can't control the energy of my art spell. I thought I taught another student, just like you before. He was reserved, shy, and not very good at expressing himself.
What happened to him?
He became a very brave man. A shame that he couldn't live the longer, more beautiful life I'd hoped he would. But I was fortunate enough to hear his last performance. The cry of his instrument was hardly inferior to the famed musician with whom he shared a surname.
Oh, was he the descendant of someone famous?
Herbst. Have you heard his work?
Who did you just say?
People often call him the Witch King.
That Witch King? People hardly ever call him by that name.
Really? But to me, he was first and foremost a musician.
Everyone says he stopped performing with regular instruments toward the end of his life. His music... no, you could hardly call that noise music. They say it instilled fear in anyone who heard it.
True, his rhythm was in no way harmonious. Every last measure far exceeded what his audience imagined based on the previous one. But I never felt such a strong will.
You really shouldn't talk about this on campus. I heard the Empress's voice and the gendarmerie keep a close eye on Ludwig's Universität. You'd be in deep trouble if they were to catch wind of it.
You should return to your dorm. Keep practicing this piece. No matter what commotion you may hear outside, focus only on your own rhythm.
A strange voice, once again from a sculpture. Arturia.
So it's you. If you're here to speak to me personally, then I take it the show is about to begin?
Almost. Our guests are arriving as they should, one by one. Will you be performing everything that will happen today for me, just like you used to? I'd like to be present when the melody begins.
You wish to listen from beginning to end? I'm afraid that would be a very long piece.
A lot of people will be hurt today, some will even die. They will be sacrificed because of me, and I cannot allow myself to look away.
Even though it hurts so much, you're far more determined than anyone. When my performance reaches the end of your life, what will I see? Ludwig's Universität. I've seen the name in more than a few books I've read, most recently in a leading publication on Originium arts theory, but the name comes up as early as ancient scrolls engraved with secret arts. The crest of that university shines brilliantly in the history of Leithanien's arts.
It's merely a variant of the Urtica family crest.
But it remains Leithanien's oldest university. Once I used to fantasize about life on a campus like this. Walking through the campus covered with red leaves, surrounded by friends of similar ages, with an endless buffet of books and literature in the library, every day must be fulfilling here.
With Their Majesty's permission, you are free to enroll in any school in Leithanien.
Oh, have you noticed the eyes of the students walking around us? Their thirst for knowledge is enough for them to forget the divide between their upbringings. Yet before Kurfürst Ludwig chose to make his spire a university, all knowledge was locked away by decree. So how can I bring myself to use that very same authority to pollute such unique purity once more? The gendarmerie?
Your so-called purity has never really existed.
Did you summon them here?
Wouldn't need to. The eyes up on the spires have never looked away from Leithanien's lands. And especially not from here. Before you lies the oldest spire in the Urtica territory. The Witch King stayed in it for a decade, and often returned even after his coronation. The campus may seem peaceful from the outside, but every centimeter of this place can be tracked back to the Witch King. and that includes the man we're looking for.
Herr Gerhard Hoffmann?
9. We will find his teacher first. He's the one most familiar with Ludwig's Universität. Since the era of the Witch King. No, since an even more distant past, he's never left this school's most ancient spire.
Why are there so many gendarmes on campus?
You said earlier that I was a wanted criminal.
You think they're here for you? No way. Besides, we've been very careful on the way. There's no way we got their attention. Quick, find a place to hide.
Team 5, Team 6, move up. Team 4, search the whole spire. Do not let any suspicious characters through.
Stop. You can't just run around and use arts like you own the place. This is a university. A lot of the research we do here requires a stable environment. Even the slightest disturbance could cause irreversible damage to the sophisticated equipment and complicated arts that have been cast.
Seize him!
Why? I didn't break any laws.
Your name?
Louis Schnitzler. You haven't answered my question.
The Schnitzlers of Fortsgard? Take him to the classrooms.
I don't understand.
Keep searching. Take any commoners to the courtyard and lock the nobles in the classrooms. Take control of anyone and anything related to House Urtica.
I'm only a Schnitzler by name. My father didn't even inherit the title. What gives you the right to do all this over something that happened decades ago?
Because we're investigating what happened decades ago. Young Herr Schnitzler, as long as you behave yourself, I assure you nothing will happen to you.
My family will be participating in a celebration soon. I'm going to have an audience with their majesties. Ludwig's Universität is the most historic university in Leithanien. Not even the Kaiserinnen's armies dared damage a single brick of the spire 23 years ago. What gives you the right to trample on knowledge and the arts, on Leithanien's traditions?
The Kaiserinnen's orders, young Herr. The culprit who murdered our commander is hiding in this school. If you want to protect it, then tell all your classmates that they better report anything they know about a strange sancta and the Witch King's remains.
The Kaiserinnen's orders? No way.
You seem surprised.
Surprised? No, I'm just an idiot. Given her personality and disposition, how could I have not thought she'd keep herself at arm's length? I can't waste my time chasing after Arturia anymore.
I thought she was the target of your mission too.
Only part of it. My client wants to understand the reasoning behind her actions in order to prevent her from getting in the way of our plans. But now, there's a bigger problem. I can't let this ruin the plan itself.
You... I have no further questions. As you are a Leithanian, I will not be required to execute your will.
Forget it. Not like I was expecting anything resembling a goodbye from you. Herr Executor, the case Arturia is involved in is far more serious than you could ever imagine. Even your Pope has no right to interfere. Here's some advice. Abandon your mission before the gendarmerie make it here. Leave Zwillingstürme.
I've completed my assessment. Abandoning this mission is not an option. We've arrived, Roster. You best wait outside.
I sense no danger.
Don't move.
What?
You're blocking my pipe. Yes, the one puffing out smoke to your left. If you move, I can't guarantee that your left hand will remain after the smoke ring passes.
You use a smoking pipe as a wand?
This? A wand? Don't be ridiculous. I smoke to relax. Who would want to think about serious matters while smoking? I simply wanted to run an experiment and see if this smoking ring could float all the way to the top of the Twin Sheep's spire. We're here because we have important matters to discuss, Herr from Mom. Oh, the killjoy, Reiner. If only you were as well behaved as the lovely little doe next to you.
I'd also be interested in seeing if a smoke ring could float for dozens of kilometers.
No, distance isn't the important factor. What matters is not being blinded by that uselessly shiny armor of yours. Alright, so you've ruined my mood. Now tell me, what is it the gloomy sheep, or the boastful sheep, that asked you to come and find me? So, you're telling me a copy of the Guldenes Gesetz was lost. The one stored in Sturmwind. Do we pay you to sit around all day? You're the Gesetzeswächter, and you can't even keep an eye on the Guldenes Gesetz? What good is that fancy getup of yours, other than being hung from the top of the spires as an ornament? Seriously, that Grimmacht. It's safe to keep it far away from the center of Whirlpool? Apparently, some of your idiocy rubbed off on her. Maybe the bigger your horns, the stupider you get. And don't get me started with that punk in Sturmwind. Honor his vow with his life? Like hell he did. Kurfürst Werner has passed. Before you stands his daughter.
It's a pleasure.
My condolences, if you want them. But that doesn't change the fact that this whole farce is the height of absurdity. Especially the fact that Grimmacht waited until now to tell me.
Is the stolen Guldenes Gesetz really so special?
23 years ago, when Kurfürst Werner returned from Zwillingstürme to Sturmland, he had it on his person. Aside from the Kaiserinnen and the Kurfürsten, no one wanted to be near it. My guess is that, like many of the arts devices from the era of the Witch King, his arts still remain in it. The Witch King's arts. The Witch King's arts. The entrance of Ludwig's University has that fool's arts too. They could have all this armors lining the streets start breakdancing right this moment. But is there a point? Did Grimmacht never mention it? Those are no normal frivolous arts. They're arts devices that Herkomson himself spent his life developing, all to defeat his greatest foe.
The Witch King's greatest foe? Do you mean Corsica the First of Gaul?
A mere emperor leading a mere army. Do you really think transient might like that would have meant a thing to Herkomson in his heyday? The enemy he defeated all those years ago was the will of Leithanien. The Guldenes Gesetz. Apparently you aren't a complete moron. Ever since the birth of the Leithanian Empire, the Guldenes Gesetz has changed only once. All on his own, Herkomson issued a challenge to Leithanien's forebears, as well as to all the arts masters who put their energy into composing the Guldenes Gesetz.
How do you feel?
My head. It doesn't hurt as much anymore.
I'm afraid normal healing arts won't help you very much. Your pain isn't caused by physical injuries.
I know. There's an evil old fart shouting my ear off, that's all.
You can actually hear him speak?
Occasionally.
That must be unbearable. Like his melodies, the Witch King's voice holds a power that is difficult to endure. If he wanted, he could kill a man simply by humming.
You've met him?
My teacher, Herr Fremont, was once the Witch King's closest friend. When he sat atop the Witch King's spire, there were once thousands of casters prostrating themselves before the steps of the throne, and I was one of them.
So you're also...
Ah! Is your head hurting again? Don't worry. I betrayed him in the end. I joined the resistance and charged into the spire under Grimmacht and Evignad's leadership. That day, the steps I once knelt before were redder than even the leaves in the Ludwig's Universität campus.
It must have been a difficult battle.
For every 10 companions I fought beside, Only one survived. Every last one of us was amongst the most capable in the country. If they had been as fortunate as me, they would have gone on to become even more outstanding scholars, even greater casters.
No wonder you visited Forest Park that day. I should salute you and those who sacrificed their lives.
Don't waste your strength. I'm not worth it. If it hurts though, feel free to lean on me.
Let him go. Lessing?
I knew you'd come after us. Where's Professor Fremont?
He's very disappointed in you.
I'm sorry, Lessing. I don't want to hurt you, nor do I want to make an enemy of my dear teacher.
Then why stop us?
The Genesis Horn should not arrive like this.
We're not pursuing an evil cause. We're simply retrieving what belongs to us and destroying what hinders us. You know that.
The Witch King's relics. Who do they belong to? And who decides that? You are a smart fellow, Lessing, and an honest one. You should think about these things, lest you regret all this in 20 or 30 years. I see you as my favorite student, which is why I don't want to see you make the same mistakes.
I once saw you as a dear mentor too.
I still remember. You weren't even half as tall as you were now when Professor Fremont handed that sword to you. Yet in a blink of an eye, you're as old as I when I stormed the Witch King's spire. In school, time really does fly by, doesn't it?
My fear is not that enough time has passed, that I'm not strong or worthy enough to raise my sword for those I want to protect. I'm your target, Remnant of the Witch King. And I have only one thing to say to you. Get out of my way.
Classes are almost over. Come, this way.
Meyer, what are you doing standing here? Not auditing any lectures today? Why are you holding a sword in a school building? You really love training, don't you?
He chose his path on purpose.
Have you heard? A large group of gendarmes barged into the school today. They're searching everyone they're coming across, especially commoners from the Urtica territory. Hold on, why are you running so fast? Even up the stairs? The school administration doesn't allow that!
Are you okay? Why waste your strength on me? I'm much older than you. I should be the one protecting you.
Well, I'm the one he's after. Besides, I don't want to see any more blood spilled on my account.
Considering Lessing's ability and temperament, he'll catch up to us soon. We need to take a safer route.
Are we inside a school?
Ludwig's Universität. You are of the Urtica bloodline. If the Witch King hadn't fallen when you were born, you would have studied arts here.
I'd rather wish I weren't.
The Urticas have produced more than one Leithanien ruler, aside from Herkunftshorn and the other Kaisers. Ludwig, known as the Scholar, he was the Kurfürst of Einwald, and he too almost became the Kaiser of Leithanien, and he was also your ancestor. He wanted everyone to gain the most supreme knowledge, so that the land would never again impede Leithanien. When he insisted on opening up his family spire to all of Einwald's citizens, many thought he'd gone mad.
Mad? Huh. I suppose a lot of our family get called that.
Madness goes hand in hand with greatness. This has always been the way of House Urtica. Even the Witch King was a benevolent ruler of unsurpassed talent before he succumbed to his madness.
Succumbing to madness has far more frightening connotations when it happens to a tyrant rather than a commoner. If that's another Urtica tradition, then I'll have to find somewhere to bleed out before it happens to me.
From the moment I laid eyes on you, I saw the bravery in you, but your life is precious, and self-destruction has never been the only path open to you. Franz, may I call you Franz?
You know the name I threw away?
You won't ever be alone again. Let me help you.
Gerhard Hoffmann. Of all my students, he is the one who knows best what Goldnesgesetz really is. If only he were here, then I wouldn't need to waste my energy explaining all this.
How did you know our purpose here?
Purpose?
The Witch King's remains killed my father, as well as 2 more who participated in the coup 23 years ago. We suspect that their next target is Hoffmann.
Ah, you came at just the right time then. Just 15 minutes ago. Wait, what did you just say? Gerhard is involved with the Witch King's remains, the same remains that experimented on Hakonson's great-grandson simply to blow up a dime a dozen music hall? I suppose so. They may not be the exact same group, but they are working under a similar banner. But how do you know so much about even the finest detail of the Weissam incident? This energy fluctuation, it's a sign that arts were cast to maintain structural integrity here. The same kind of arts used by Anwald's caster army. Don't mistake my arts for their child's play. Forget the Anwald of today. Even when Hakonson was still around, I was the one who taught all his lackeys their spatial arts. Stand back, Droste. Why are you reaching for your blade? Stay away from my instruments. It's been centuries since its spire was last repaired, and it can't withstand being knocked around. Elframo, is the experiment you were just conducting related to the voice of Mundane? Quick, upstairs! I heard from a student just now. The sanctum we're looking for is hiding there. A pipe organ. The entire spire is designed in the shape of an enormous pipe organ. It matches the distinguishing characteristics of the background sounds in the cello piece we heard earlier. There is a very high chance that the wanted criminal Arturia is hiding here. Suddenly a strange voice from a sculpture can be heard again, but...
Will you keep going up?
Originium arts that use sculptures to synchronize voices. The very same kind I heard at the site of the attack at Karl Schmidt Street. So you started working with the Witch King's remains after all, Arturia.
If I told you I never cared who they were, and had no interest in Leithanien's political turmoil, would you believe me?
The resentment of individuals has never been a motive for your crimes, and I see power struggles and profit as even less likely candidates.
Oh, Federico, you really do know me better than anyone. Everyone else's minds are tainted with thoughts, while you... boring as you are, you and I are alike. All these years I've walked amidst chaos simply to find an even stronger soul. This journey was no different. I simply accepted the invitation of a few Leithanian acquaintances. That's the only reason for my visit. Even without my assurances, you should already know in your heart that, no matter what becomes of Leithanien tomorrow, it will have no immediate effect on Laterano.
Perhaps.
Then can I ask you the same thing the Lupa boy did? That you ignore what you see here?
You're upstairs.
You guessed right. I suppose I could give you a reward and let you see me. How about this? Once my wish comes true, I will be waiting for you at the city gates on the day I leave Zwillingstürme. When the time comes, if you still want me to go back to Laterano with you, I promise you, I'll think about it.
An arrest is not a request. You do not have the right to think about it.
My lovely baby brother, you really don't know what to give up.
Target spotted! It's the Sankta who was at the scene of Captain Borden's murder. Everyone, surround Sonata Spire immediately!
The suspect didn't stop. He ran upstairs.
After him! One floor after another, Leithanien spires are always so tall. There are more and more pursuers by the second. Shoes of various ages step on the stairs, each producing a different sound. The pipes that form the spire's walls are vibrating even more powerfully now. The sound of the organ and the footsteps blend together to form a unique piece, with the squads meandering up the spiral staircase as the performers. At the front, Federico maintains a steady pace through the entire process. Even his heart rate remains unchanged. His eyes do not see any of the pursuing soldiers. All he can see is the target before him. A decade has passed, but as though only a day has gone by, nothing has changed. The last floor. By leaping past the few dozen steps before him, he will reach his target.
Don't move! You Sancta, don't tell me you can actually fly. Just how fast can you run? Good thing the student told me about another shortcut up here. I'm a bit... I don't care how amazing you are. If you take another step, I'm taking you down. So what will you do? Will you declare war on the Leithanien gendarmerie? They too are enforcers of law, much like your countless co-workers at the Notorious Hall. However, unlike you, they hesitate before plunging themselves into battle. They feel fear. When you charge ahead in pursuit of your target with no regret for anything else, do you lay eyes on those ordinary men and women for even a moment?
What's that sound? Is someone talking to you? Are they your buddy? You have friends here, don't you? Did you lure us into an ambush? She is not my friend.
But I am a fellow Sancta. We both have the same halos above our heads and the same wings on our backs. We're even related by blood. How will you persuade them that you came all this way not to aid me, but to arrest me?
The misunderstandings of others have never been a reason to waver. My teammates will be here soon. You won't get away.
Surrender. Approach those who have misunderstood you and end this pointless pursuit. Clearly explain your position and motives to them. And then accept the fact that you have failed once again.
You're right in front of me. I have unearthed evidence of your arts. Drop all your weapons! Back away from the talking sculpture! I ask that you please calm down. I am not your enemy.
That's what all the smooth-talking criminals say. I trust nothing but my eyes and my arts unit. You'll pay for what you did to Captain Borden, Sancta!
I was not responsible for Loris Borden's death.
They're already under the thumb of their most irrational emotions.
Your music is affecting everyone in the area.
Is this really my doing? Perhaps this is what they've always wanted, deep down. I told you long ago, much like our society, most people's minds are filled with chaos. You ignore this fact. The only thing on your mind is to sidestep the chaos and find the most efficient shortcut to resolve the issue at hand. Poor Federico, have you still not noticed why you've never managed to catch me, even though you've pursued me all these years? How is a man who sealed off his own perceptions, unwilling to touch the chaos, supposed to reach chaos itself?
That doesn't concern me. And you are not chaos itself. You are a criminal, and your actions beget chaos, which is why you must be stopped. Like right now. I have you now, Arturia. Federico raises his gun. The bullet pierces the speaking sculpture opposite him and continues in a straight path until it shatters the wall. The black-haired Sancta is standing on a balcony not far away, with her back facing the setting sun and a bow in her hand. She smiles faintly. Meanwhile, beam after beam of arts light finally reaches the executor. What's going on? I just saw a bunch of gendarmerie surrounding Sonata Spire. Haven't you heard? It's the Witch King's remains. They're hiding among us in the school researching arts used to hurt people. It's so scary. How come none of us ever noticed? I don't believe it. How can you be sure they aren't lying? Their Majesties have long seen the school as a thorn in their side. It's probably an excuse to destroy Ludwigsuniversität. How dare you doubt their Majesties? Oh, I get it. You're under the Witch King's remains influence yourself, aren't you? No, you might even be the one who let them here in the first place. You're one of them. How could you slander me like that? We've shared a room ever since we started school. I even took you to my family's villa by the lake every summer. Ha! And how many of your family's possessions in that villa were rewards from the Witch King? Like that set of arts crystals in the basement used to observe catastrophes. They were refined from the ashes of the infected, weren't they? What did you just... Defame me all you like, but don't you dare drag my grandmother into this. She was the greatest catastrophe scholar in Nightwald, and she died for Leithanien on the Northern Sturmland battlefield. Ah, my eyes! Ah, I'm reporting you and your family to the gendarmerie and the Empress's voice. You wretched Witch King's remnant! What does that make you? An idiot who crawled your way here by clutching the hems of the Twin Empresses' dresses? If your family didn't so happen to have been on the right side, the lot of you would still be boatmen ferrying the nobles. What do you even know? Did you ever learn to truly respect knowledge? You don't even know which instruments to use for the different occasions. Of course I always knew you'd look down on me. Come on, fight me! What are you doing protecting him, Meyer? Your family used to serve the nobles too. Aren't you itching to take this chance to beat up these haughty snobs? The university forbids originium arts duels between students. When a pack of wild beasts gains knowledge, that doesn't mean they've become civilized. All they've learned is how to use it to hide their fangs. We should be ridding ourselves of this brutish rabble. They'll only tarnish the elegance and values of Ludwigsuniversität. Shut up. We worked for centuries to earn the right for commoners and nobles to sit in one classroom together. Neither Ludwigsuniversität or society as a whole should regress. Out of my way, Meyer, or you're my enemy too. You are much better than him, Meyer. The old fart who raised you has been stinking up this place longer than anyone else, hasn't he? I heard he's lived for hundreds of years, and he keeps extending his life with the bones of the dead. Maybe he put you together from bones too? I've also heard rumors. They say even the twins were molded by Fremont with his witchcraft. Nonsense. Fremont and the Witch King were the best of friends. I bet he's the leader of the Witch King remains. Both of you should get some rest. His long sword wrapped in cloth blocks the arts flying toward him from both sides. Lessing single-handedly stops both of them. He then lifts his head to find even more beams of arts being flung toward one another. Firelight, ice crystals, strange energy balls, frenzied flower beds, and upside-down fountains. Every spell ever taught in lectures is now interwoven with one another all at once. There is a thunderous rumble. A golem running around has knocked over a road sign. Ludwigsuniversität. The shining school crest falls into a cloud of dust. I'm really getting on in years. It's only been such a short distance, yet it feels as though I've climbed hundreds of steps. I think I heard the sounds of a fight above ground. Are the Witch King's remains fighting with those from the university? You're too weak. Leave the war to the others for now. But suppose this war started because of me, I'd have no reason to hide. You feel guilty, that's only natural. Fate chose you over the others to live, and that is not necessarily a mercy. I know better than anyone how that feels. Have you experienced a similar suffering? I was gravely injured during the final battle, and spent the better part of a year in a confused state. It was Professor Fremont who spent the time and effort to cure me. That day, when I finally woke up from my nightmare of being bound to those blood-red steps,
The first thought that went through my mind was, my classmates, friends, and even my lover were all gone. In my despair, I climbed to the top of Sonata Spire, wishing to leap from it. He found me up there, and I asked him, was everything I did for Leithanien truly meaningful?
What happened next? Did you find the meaning you sought?
He gave me a number of books on Guldenesgesetz. He told me that whenever I can't answer my own questions, history can. So I started studying the Guldenesgesetz, how Leithanien came to be, and the direction it should go. I researched these topics for 20 years.
And what answer did you come to?
The problems facing Leithanien have always existed, ever since the birth of the Guldenesgesetz. The cultural difference between tribes, the rift between nobles and commoners, etc., all these have existed for over 1,000 years. History has proven how difficult it is to change Leithanien, to give its citizens new lives, and to end the endless sacrifices. We must possess both absolute power and unbreakable resolve. Luckily, such power wasn't completely lost, and we're on our way to find it right now.
So, this power you speak of is hidden somewhere on this old campus?
Yeah.
And by obtaining it, we'll be able to resolve the predicament before us, eliminate the threat of the Witch King's remains, and change my fate all at the same time?
It was only my confidence in it that gave me the courage to go against my teacher. Come, Franz, it's right up ahead.
9. You again. Don't follow him any further. You shouldn't go there. Come back with me. So you can strap me to the table again and make me a vassal for summoning the Witch King's legacy? In your dreams. Let the drags of the past be buried by time and vanish from Leithanien entirely.
They will. I'm doing what I can to ensure that happens.
But before that, there's no before anything. I've thrown away even a guarantee from the Kaiserin. Do you really think I'd listen to the promises of a remnant of the Witch King?
All I want is to obtain the Witch King's legacy. The people you're talking about, the ones who want to summon the Witch King, are my enemies too.
Not this again. Is always denying your involvement really that fun for you people? Or are you fighting over who gets credit for what? All to crawl ever closer to that rotten throne? I'm sick of all this. Can't you pick some other trophy and stay away from me?
The stairs beneath us are vanishing? This school is much older than you can imagine. Don't resist the power of history. Give up. No! Lessing, not even you can fight a transforming staircase on your own. You'll only hurt yourself.
Are you this cruel to yourself too?
Look, I don't know what Gea told you, but don't listen to him.
Rather than someone who claims to be grateful to the Witch King and wants to lock me away in a lab, I'd rather trust someone who once stood against the Witch King and saved my life.
The advent of the Genesis Horn is extremely unlikely to hurt you in any way. The old man and I triple-checked that. The process may be painful, but not unbearable.
But you aren't me. What right do you have to make the decision for me?
I don't, but everyone has a responsibility that only they can bear. Stop running away. If neither the voice of Mundane nor the Urtica bloodline are things that you can change, then all you can do is accept them.
Accept them? The ones who killed my parents and forced the voice of Mundane into me gave me the same excuses. The ones who almost turned me into a bomb to blow up a city, the ones who killed my brother, said nearly the same thing. Why do you people always have these self-righteous justifications? Is that really enough for you to ignore all the screams you're creating? Ugh! Verdammt, still not letting go, even after that blow? Are you really so eager to be torn to pieces by the ancient arts of these stairs?
I'd rather die than see you fall into their hands. This has always been about more than just you, more than me as well. When Leithanien's future is at stake, any sacrifices. Franz, come. We need to keep going.
This energy enveloping me, did you save me? I didn't do it to save you. I just can't stand people like you, obsessed with sacrificing themselves. Franz. Ebenholz. Don't walk right into a trap. Come on, Franz. What is this place? This is where the key I mentioned lies. The key capable of fundamentally changing Leithanien. 1,000 years ago, sages from the various tribes came together and signed an alliance, witnessed by an all-powerful, immortal caster. This pact laid out the relationship between the tribes, established the Kurfürsten system, and set the foundation for Leithanian morality and appreciation of the arts. You mean the Guldenes Gesetz? Yeah. In the centuries that followed, the Guldenes Gesetz ensured Leithanian stability. That is, until a century ago, when the Syracusans became the first to turn their backs on the Guldenes Gesetz and seek independence from Leithanien. It was a bloody conflict, lasting several years. With one part of the core gone, the movement became destabilized, and many regions fell into chaos. Leithanien was on the brink of collapse. In those dire circumstances, a man stepped forward. He realized that the Guldenes Gesetz had to be amended. Only by removing Syracusa from the score entirely could the reborn movement unite the 9 remaining regions. The Witch King. Correct, my child. What you see before you is the most mysterious chamber of Ludwig's Universität, where the House Urtica's arts, circulated for centuries, are gathered, and where Herkunftshorn rewrote the Guldenes Gesetz. I cannot agree to your methods. Even if I were willing to believe you that the Genesis Horn truly exists, it is incapable of descending upon Zwillingstürme as it is now. This is exactly why I didn't bother notifying you people. Because I suspect I have heads even harder than their helmets. Your so-called safe and controllable plan to summon the Genesis Horn has already failed. The Witch King's remnants are hiding within the campus, and with all the relics of the Witch King stored here, they will bring forth a disaster of unprecedented scale. And for now, there is only one effective means to stopping them. I refuse. We'll evacuate all the students and university staff. Ludwig's Universität contains much more of value than just its students and instructors. I've had tenure here for centuries. Can you even imagine how many precious arts devices and enchantments there are here? I understand, but I ask that you please prioritize Leithanien's safety. Absolutely not. You say you understand, but that's far beyond your meager capabilities. The old man's voice calms down. His habitual tongue-lashing comes to a halt as he stares at the man in front of him. The shadow of his skinny body on the wall suddenly grows very tall, like a spire covered in vines. These spires are not for you to meddle with. If you dare suggest destroying them again, I'll throw all of you out at once.
Something isn't right. The sunset outside the window disappeared?
The sun's not the only thing that's gone. Very brave of you. However, don't even try to touch my shadow again unless you wish to be dissolved by it.
Fremont's shadow... it's fractured into innumerable silk strings.
Droste, lower your arts. Do not probe those shadows. His true form is hidden inside. You're not yet strong enough to stare directly into his soul. Oh? So you figured out who I am? Then you must also know that no one who's been thrown outside by me has ever managed to climb back alive. If you're brave enough, feel free to see for yourself. There is nothing out there whatsoever. I assure you that were you to leap outside, you wouldn't even have time to scream. Your mouths, your vocal cords, your limbs would all perish in the darkness.
I've never even heard of arts like these.
Exile. I've heard it spoken of in legends, but was never sure how much truth there was to it until today. You've been hiding in Leithanien for so long now. Why choose now to reveal your identity, Herr Lich?
A lich? You mean Herr Fremont is a Sarkas?
Ah, a Sarkas. Aside from the immortal bastards of the royal court, very few these days have been able to deduce my identity. You say I've been hiding. That's a good way to put it, little lamb. When you put it like that, I've stayed in this country for far too long, haven't I? I never meant to hide my true identity. It's only that I've grown used to being cooped up in the spire, with my head buried in the literature here. It's you people who forgot who I was. And all of you keep bothering me with Leithanien's messes. Sometimes it's the wolves bickering with the lambs, other times it's two deer locking antlers. Haven't you wasted enough of my time? Now scram, and tell Grimmach that I don't care anymore. Once I've recovered what I loaned from the Genesis Horn, the liches will be gone from Leithanien for good. And if it's not too much to ask, get the hell out of here and never set foot in my holy temple again! The Genesis Horn cannot be allowed to descend. Did you not understand a word of what I just said? I am no match for you, but it doesn't mean Leithanien's Gesetzeswächter will give up so easily. And what about you, my lovely dome? Do you also seek death? Let her leave.
Herr Fremont, surely there is still room for negotiation?
You can stop trying.
It's you.
Hello, Droste. Nein, I should call you Frau Hochbach.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Michael, the personal envoy of Her Majesty Grimmacht. So you are another Empress's voice?
I am not. An Empress's voice serves both Kaiserin at once, while I belong only to Grimmacht.
Can I take that to mean that we're enemies?
The last time we met, I already told you that we might walk different paths. What are you dawdling around for, Wolfcub? Hurry up and throw them out of here.
Right away. Herr Rainer, Frau Hochbach, these are Grimmacht's orders. I am to assist Herr Fremont and ensure that the Genesis Horn makes its advent on Zwillingstürme. But why? First, because this was Grimmacht's promise to Herr Fremont. As a show of gratitude to the Lich's contribution to Leithanien over the past millennium, and to foster a continued, long-lasting friendship, we will help Herr Fremont retrieve what once belonged to him. Second, if there's anyone who has the right to use the Genesis Horn, it can only be my liege. Your liege. Singular.
Don't let him get to you, Droste. It doesn't matter if it was Grimmacht or Evignade who wished for this. There is no reason for you to get involved. House Hochbach has already sacrificed too much for the conflict between the Witch King and the Twin Empresses, and for the Gildenes Gesetz. I will see you out of here safely, even if I must put my life on the line.
What's going on? Why is the spire shaking? It's not the spire that's shaking. It's the ground beneath us. The shadow is fracturing. Something is trying to make its way through.
Is there something underneath the campus's plate?
House Ortica's secret chamber. Those stupid sheep barged into my underground space.
Fremont, you fool.
You've been in Leithanien for too long. You've contracted the stupidity of these bighorn sheep.
Thank goodness, the legends were true. The old man was telling the truth.
All these enchantments and art devices, every last one perfectly preserved. This is living history. Not even the greatest history books were able to go into such fine detail about the situation.
Wait, this is... A silhouette emerges from the darkness, followed by another and another. Their robes, hoods and masks have not changed at all in the past 20 years. A silhouette he could not be more familiar with emerges from the nightmare that's plagued him for his entire life and steps right in front of him. Welcome back to your territory, Graf Urtica.
Professor Hoffman. What is it, Franz? Look what I just found. This is an art scroll that's been missing for ages. And this, it can't possibly be the brass instrument used by Herkonson himself, can it? There are treasures here far more valuable than I ever imagined.
My head, it hurts. Verdammt! Why now of all times? When it's the most dangerous? No, I can't fall here. Professor Hoffman, please go. I'll protect you.
Franz, what in blazes are you talking about?
Lessing was right. I can't keep running away. All this time there's always been someone protecting me. All the people by my side. First it was that lady, then the respectable gendarmerie, then Herr Czerny, and him. All of them more willing to sacrifice themselves than I. But this time, I'll do it. I'll kill myself here. I still have the voice of mundane they love so much. That should be more than enough to blow this chamber of evil to smithereens. Grab what you want, while you still can. Go, hurry!
It's time you got some rest, you silly child.
What did you say?
My life's work is about to be realized, but how am I supposed to accomplish all this without you?
This is the second time. Someone holds a brass instrument up high and violently strikes his head. Graf Urtica. Many years ago, he woke up to find himself shackled to that chair. In the 10 years since, he was granted this name. He never wanted the title of Graf, and he despised the name Urtica more than anything. Even the name Franz, an old-fashioned name used by countless noble children, is something he has always loathed. In that spire standing tall in the center of the Urtica Grafschaft, he tried to escape that chair again and again. After all, it was never him that the nobles reporting on the affairs of the Grafschaft truly cared about. They knew each other well, which is why the guards only ever came early in the day to drag him from the curtains to the chair. After a long time, he would finally be allowed to roam the spire aimlessly. Not even the guards noticed him then, until the next morning arrived. The days went by in that vicious cycle. If he hadn't tried to run even farther afield, hadn't thought about the other person suffering a similar fate, hadn't tried to resist, and hadn't been shown any hope whatsoever, then perhaps he would have been bound to the chair his entire life. But then today he finds himself caught once again, and behind him is yet another familiar chair. Its shadow is simple, elegant, and entwined with thorns. At a single glance it feels as if his eyes, brain and heart have been pierced with intense pain. Even the cheers around him are all similar. It's just that this time they call him Witch King. So, what did I say about the second title for this story? And yeah, that was pretty much the reason why I didn't want to do the, you know, random enemy description right at the end of this. Because I just wanted to leave on that. That is where we're gonna leave off for today. Oh boy, he really cannot catch a break. But we have a Lich. Now, I'm not gonna say much more about the Lich itself, because that has... Well, there was something else mentioned that I'm not gonna say anything about. I'm presuming at this point what that was about. We'll see in the next coming parts, I guess, if a certain person will pop up here. But let's put it this way: I'm starting to see certain things that I mentioned in part 1 at the beginning. And again, I'm not gonna talk about them specifically, but I'll probably gonna have to talk about them at the end of this thing, but there's still more to come. We're still at the beginning. We haven't even hit the halfway point, I think. But yeah. Alright. But this will be it for today. I think next time, considering we haven't had a ST cutscene yet, well, we had one at the beginning, but we haven't had a second one yet. I'm presuming after 5 will be 1 or after 6. So next part will be probably a tiny bit longer. Because we're gonna do the usual 2 stages and then an ST cutscene in between probably. But yeah, that's gonna be for next time. I think this one works very well as a stopping point for today. But oh boy, things be going down, and Executor is not stopping anymore. He is after Arturia's ass. He's shooting through walls. He had enough. Wall hacking. The guy would be amazing at some Counter-Strike, I think. Anyway, like I said, this will be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like on it. It would help me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, of course. And if you want to join the memberships, because there are multiple, they're right there as well. However, as I always say, there will be no video behind a membership. It is literally just there to support me and my work more directly. And that's about it. Thank you very much. Hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are. And I will see you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.